First of all, Happy New Year everyone, and hope we have a good 2022. Secondly, Eve of the Daleks, the New Year's Day special, if you like, following Doctor Who Flux. The 13th Doctor, played by Jodie Whittaker, and her companions Yasmin Khan and Dan Lewis, played by Amanda Gill and John Bishop, they have to repair the TARDIS following the events of the Flux, just to burn off any more of the Flux that may have clinged on and just get everything reset. They mean to do this on a beach planet, but instead end up at Elf Storage, a self-storage centre where they find something very wrong. Something very wrong is they've got one of the workers there named Sarah, played by Ailing B, and a man named Nick, played by Ajani Salmon, and they're going through the typical feelings given around New Year's. Sarah is constantly fielding phone calls from her mother, Mary, played by Pauline McLynn, who says to her that she really needs to get herself together with a boyfriend or just come round and stuff, or just get everything done. It's like, Mum, why do you always call me this early? And it's like, well, the lines are all going to be busy at midnight. It's like, no, they won't. Just, I'll call you back later, which is nice to see. Sarah clearly doesn't actually want to be there. She wants to be at home, just relaxing around New Year's, but she has an absent co-worker named Jeff who, given how he plays into the events of the episode, is possibly someone that you could consider a little dodgy. But she is always met on New Year's Eve by Nick, played by Ajani Salmon, who, he's not necessarily a bad guy. I mean, they always meet up, but clearly he's got something for her, and it's a little bit awkward between them. I mean, even I could see clearly very early on when she gives him the keys to his unit, and he's just going off, and she's like, well, wait a minute, can you tell me kind of the rules of the unit once again? And she's like, sure, you can't use the unit to store things like animals, dead or alive, can't have any food in there, can't set up an apartment, can't have any hazardous materials. It's like, can you remind me once again what hazardous materials means? She's like, sure, like, if you set fire to it, could it cause problems? And it was clear to me from the start that he's clearly only doing this because he wants to talk to her. I mean, even I could see he's got a little thing for her, and even in the trailers, you could kind of guess that these two, something was going to develop. But the real problem starts when Daleks end up showing up at the storage unit. And every time they, and of course the Doctor and the companions, they end up exterminated. Except they seem to be trapped in some sort of time loop, which is eventually revealed not to be the work of the Daleks, but to actually be the work of the Doctor. Like, with the TARDIS being repaired, they have now effectively been trapped in a time loop. This is the Doctor Who version of Groundhog Day, with the TARDIS repairing. However, the main difference is the first loop happens at 10 minutes before midnight, and with each subsequent loop, it's 1 minute later. So they start off at 23:50 on 31st of December, and then the next loop is at 23:51, 23:52. You get the idea. Each loop is 1 minute later, so it's up to them to try and stay alive. And as the Doctor points out, that the Daleks are learning each loop. They're learning from the previous loops as to what they did, and are trying to kind of cut them off. But they need to be smarter. They need to also learn from the loops and do something that the Daleks won't expect. And it does make up some quite frenetic action and some quite deep sacrifices. Like, the 2 minutes, the two that immediately come to mind is, I know there's one part where it's revealed what's inside Nick's storage unit. It's like, why do you put all this stuff in there? It's like, well, I've only got a small apartment, and I've had a lot of relationships with girlfriends, and some only lasted a few hours, a few days, and like, but I can't bear to keep their stuff in eyesight, so I put them here in my storage unit in case they ever want to come and get their stuff back. To which this seems to frustrate Sarah a little bit as she goes, "Oh, come on. Like, they're never going to come to get their stuff back. Just throw their stuff away, for God's sake." Which evidently upsets Nick a little bit, which leads him to go on and face the Daleks in order to give everyone else a chance to run. And the other one that I do think you could count as self-sacrifice is in one of the later loops. They see another surge of energy, which means another Dalek is entering. They're not just dealing with one. And these are not ordinary Daleks, these are executioner Daleks. What the Daleks are essentially trying to do is that they believe that the Doctor was responsible for killing off a load of Daleks during the Flux event. Which, while the Doctor points out, "No, that wasn't me, that was the Sontarans using it," it's like, yeah, but you still took advantage of it, so we're coming to kill you. So I think the other point, when they realise there are actually two executioner Daleks and are causing problems, Dan says to them, "Right, I'm going to go down to the reception and keep one of them busy." It's like, "Dan, you don't have to do this." "Yeah, but you saved the universe last week, so I kind of owe you one. I'll see you in the next loop." If there is a next loop. So which you do kind of understand why everyone's doing what they're doing. And I do like how two of the relationships in this particular story develop. One is, of course, the relationship between Sarah and Nick, because even from the trailers and from you pretty much tell these two are going to end up in sort of a relationship together. And I do like some particularly sweet moments they have, like when they're trying to hide from the executioner Daleks. Sarah ends up asking him, "Why do you always come to drop off your stuff on New Year's Eve at that specific time?" And he eventually tells her, "Well, that's the time I know you'll be working. I learned it from Jeff, and I kind of have a little bit of an embarrassing crush on you." Just like, "So you've been stalking me?" Just like, well, no, stalking is when you actually acknowledge that you're doing it. So it's like, well, if you don't acknowledge it, well, then it's kind of cute. And I do like how they address that some of the stuff could be creepy, but then by the end they do develop a very nice relationship together. I also do like some of the humour that they have, like when he eventually asks her, "Why do you call it elf storage?" It's just like, well, the S fell off. Like, I didn't realise that until about halfway through the episode when I thought, elf storage? I bet the S just fell off or something. And then, the component, I was like, yeah, I love that. But the other big relationship that, of course, is addressed in this one is the one between Yaz and the Doctor. And I can tell they've ultimately been hesitant about it, because this is kind of fairly nervous ground they're stepping on. But they I think are still a little bit hesitant to have Yaz and the Doctor together, but they do address it. Like, Dan can clearly see that Yaz likes the Doctor, and while the Doctor doesn't seem at first to reciprocate it, Dan eventually does talk through with him, and he tells Yaz, "You know what, just go for it. I mean, I liked someone once, but I waited too long, and then the universe ended, and then things got complicated. Like, don't wait, just do it." Which I do like how he talks them through with it, even if you do occasionally feel a little bad for him. But while I think there is still a little bit more they could do with Yaz and the Doctor before Jodie regenerates in 2 episodes, I do like how they're making a step towards trying to do it. And the way they ultimately discover a way to beat the Daleks, because one of Sarah's co-worker, Jeff, it turns out has been storing some rather bad stuff inside the storage rooms illegally, such as taxidermied animals, tinned food. He's built an apartment up there, hazardous materials, and fireworks. And the ultimate way in which they manage to beat the Daleks, I do think, is pretty cool. And the ultimate fireworks, to say, is pretty good. Ultimately, I think this episode's a little messy, but at the same time, I think they managed to do something pretty cool with it. I mean, like with most Christmas episodes, or New Year's episodes, after the kind of heavy stuff of the main series, you want something a little bit lighter, and this I do think fits the bill. That being said, while I think this one is pretty good and a nice bit of live viewing, I'm really excited about the next episode. Because while we don't know when it'll be, as the only thing they've said about it so far is that it'll be early 2022, so we don't know when exactly it'll be happening yet. When I saw the trailer for it, I'm immediately excited because on one hand they've got the most successful pirate of all time, Xing Shi, but at the same time, the title of the next episode in the specials here is Legend of the Sea Devils. Now, while the Sea Devils have essentially returned in Doctor Who comics over the years, in fact I've got a couple in my collection, they've yet to return to the small screen, to the main screen itself, and I am so excited to see what they can do with the Sea Devils now, because I've been thinking for a while that they should be brought back. I mean, they brought back the Silurians, and they managed to do that very well, but it's finally time for the Sea Devils to return after something like, I don't know, 50 years? 50 or 40 years? It's finally time for them to be brought back. So I'm so excited for Legends of the Sea Devils when that eventually comes around. But even the Daleks, I definitely think you should check it out. I don't necessarily think it's the strongest episode, but it's a bit of light viewing that we needed after the main stuff of Flux. So there you go, there's my thoughts on Eve of the Daleks. Can't wait to see what Legends of the Sea Devils holds, but we'll have to wait and see. And until next time, see ya.